Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Lucas.
and we are two aspiring filmmakers making unnecessary commentary on famous movies.
Each week, we will randomly select a film to analyze, discuss, and review.
We will select the film at the end of each podcast, so you will have ample time to watch the movie before the next episode.
We are slightly qualified film students.
Hello! Welcome to another episode of Slightly Qualified Film Students.
Yes, here we are. We're heading into a fun one today.
2020 film, our first film
2020
from this
film, our
year,
first
or
2020
like
film.
this Oscar season, whatever, this, film year pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a Charlie Kaufman film, written and directed. And it really is just like a quintessential Kaufman film, honestly. Like, there's a lot of similarities to Synecdoche, New York, his debut. Just in like the style. He has a very distinct writing style, and yeah, I mean, I really love his writing style and his directorial style too, because I think that this is a super creative and just great film that came out this year. It definitely stands out.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Ending Things, the Netflix film 2020. And if you listen to our Oscar episode, where we did our predictions and reactions to the nominations, Ben and I both ranked this movie as our number one film of 2020.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And upon rewatch of this film, I don't think I ranked it number one because of me thinking it's like the better film overall, but I think it's more about just that this is a film that's going to stick with me for a much longer time. And it's just like eye-opening and just really cool, and a film you don't see very often. Even though maybe on a technical aspect it's not quite as good as some of the other films from this year, but just because of the story and just the overall direction this film was taken, it made it to number one on my list.
Yeah, I totally agree with Lucas. Like, just compared to the other films from this year, I really just think that this film will stick with me for it. It just really interests me, and it's a very pretentious film. It's 4:3. It's got some really strange writing, and it's very conversational based. But yeah, I just think that, in 50 years, I'll still be maybe watching this and, just have this on my mind compared to, Trial of the Chicago 7 or even films like Nomadland that are more forgettable, in my opinion. This film just really has an impact on me.
Yeah, okay. Plot summary. Full of misgivings, a young woman travels with her new boyfriend to his parents' secluded farm. And that is the plot summary. That's all we're given.
Yeah. And that is literally kind of what happens.
Yeah. I guess.
Kind of.
Sort of.
Like, a little bit.
This film is very analytical. It's a film you can watch multiple times, get new things out of every time. And it's a film that you really have to think about. It's not one of those movies that is just like a relaxing, just kind of you just sit on the couch and watch it and not pay your fullest attention.
And I mean,
because
it is a horror movie also, at the end of the day. Or not like a horror movie, but it's...
I would call it a psychological drama.
Yeah,
because it's not. There aren't really any horror aspects to the entire film.
There's some tense moments though.
Yeah, it's unsettling, but it's not. Nothing really is scary, and there's no jump scares.
The first time I watched this film was at like 2 a.m. in a pitch black room with headphones on, and like there's some scenes like when she's going down into the basement. I was definitely on edge.
Okay, we have to remember that Ben scares easily, and he does not like horror movies.
It's not that I scare easily, bro. That scene's like set up as a very tense scene.
Yeah, I guess.
And the first time I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, what's gonna happen?" Because the first time I watched this, all I knew was that you said it was a Wes Anderson horror movie. That's what you called it. So I was
Yeah, that's
going in
true.
like not really
But I also
paying attention to
suggested this
much.
film to Ben within the first 3 minutes of me watching it. Um,
True.
I had watched the first 3 minutes, and I texted you and was like, "Bro, you'd like this movie," without knowing what was going to happen at all. The movie literally started. It was in 4:3, and she started talking in this like poetic voice, and I was like, "Damn, I'm gonna tell Ben about this movie." Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen
Um.
it. This is my fourth time watching it at this point. I've seen it a lot. Um, I think I watched it, and then I watched it again the next day, and then like a month later I watched it a third time, and now it's actually been a while because I think I watched it for the first time in October, so it's been 5 months ish.
Right.
But I mean, still, that's a lot of times to see this film.
Yeah.
So I
This
feel
was
like
only
I
my
do.
second time.
Yeah, I feel like I
Yeah.
truly, I have it figured out in a way.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, and definitely upon rewatch of this film, I can say the first time I watched this movie, I had no clue what was going on at all. Was completely lost. I was waiting for a plot twist. I was like, when's it gonna happen? I kept waiting for something to be revealed, and then nothing was really
And
ever revealed.
nothing
And the
is
movie
revealed.
yeah,
To
the
me,
movie
like
just ended.
the first time I watched this film, kind of same thing. Nothing gets revealed to you. It's literally the second time you watch it, the whole time is like one big plot twist, because you pick up on all the stuff you didn't pick up on, and then you just piece everything together, and you have like a revelation, or at least that's what
Yeah.
happened to me.
Well, the second time this was my second time watching it, but this time watching it, kind of understanding the premise of this film, it wasn't confusing at all. I went through the entire film and was like, yeah, I get what's happening. But
Yeah.
the first time watching it was like a surreal experience. I'd never been so confused watching a movie. And I've never watched the film an entire way through and just literally had no clue what was happening and never figured it out for the entire 2 hour and 15-minute runtime.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Charlie Kaufman for you. I mean, the first time I saw Synecdoche, New York, I was the same thing. I was like, what the hell just happened? What did I just witness?
Yeah.
And on second watch, I kind of was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that is just the Kaufman way, and he's I'd say he's definitely a top three writer for me. I don't know about calling him one of my favorite directors, just because he hasn't really directed that much, but he's one of my favorite writers. He just has such a great writing style, and I really can't wait to see what he does next.
Yes. Yeah, Ben is definitely the more pretentious of the two of us. So,
Exactly. Yeah. And Kaufman is very pretentious.
And I tend to not love pretentious movies, but this movie, I like it. I like this movie a lot, and I feel like it's when a movie is so pretentious that I'm just gonna sit there and accept that it's pretentious and just go along with it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what this film is. It's so pretentious that it's like, okay, let's just do it. Let's do it.
Let's do standout scenes, and then we'll give like an analysis, what we think is going on with the plot. Yeah. So, what was your standout scene upon second viewing? It's kind of hard to pick a standout scene in this film because
Not
there's
for
like
me.
large 30-minute chunks of driving. Well, I'm just saying.
My
there's not.
my standout scene was the same the first time I watched this movie and the second time I watched this movie, and that is the dance sequence. I love that
Damn,
scene
you
so
stole
much.
mine.
It's like it's not even a competition to me though. Like of
Yeah.
course I could pick other scenes, but for me that's the standout scene 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. It's so beautiful, and it's just so. The first time you watch it, it's insanely odd. You're like, what the heck is happening? We're all of a sudden turning this film into interpretive dance. But But upon second viewing for me, and when I started catching on to things and understanding what was happening and why this actually made sense, it's actually a very beautiful scene. And it actually
Yeah.
reveals a lot to the story that can be analyzed quite a bit. It's like, wait, there's a lot of like revelations you get from this dance sequence. But just, the music is fantastic. The dance is really nicely shot. It's all shot in like a very, very long separate takes. And the final shot of him in the snowy gymnasium with the red like towels or whatever they are, him pulling that out of his stomach and him lying there in just the snow drenched gym. It's gorgeous. I love it so much, and that is 100% my standout scene.
Okay, so since we have the same standout scene, I'll go with like a close second, which is the scene between Jesse Buckley's character. She doesn't really have a name. And David, the father, Jake's father, in his childhood bedroom when Jake's father has aged, and you're seeing him as an old man. I just think that the performances are so strong in that scene. Like the nuances that both the actors have, like I mean that scene in particular, I just think is acted super strongly. And it is very important for the story too. And it's also kind of the first moment where I thought, what the hell is happening? Like up until that point, they're talking to each other and it's very strange. The dialogue, it's very awkward. The dinner feels awkward. Everything just kind of feels off. And then everybody disappears, and all of a sudden the character of Jake's father has aged like 20 years, and at that point you're just kind of like, okay, I don't know what's happening. And it really just kind of kicks off that second act, third act confusion. But really, when you know the full, I guess, overarching themes of the film, it's just also a great scene in kind of unraveling how the janitor character has seen his father. I mean, I'll talk more about this in the analysis, but yeah, I don't know. Lucas stole my standout scene. The dancing sequence is incredible.
Love it so much. The other scene for me, not because of like the actual like content, but I think just shot wise, my favorite scene visually is probably the Tulsi Town scene.
That scene looks nice.
Just because it's neon. Lit so nicely, and them all in blue like clothing and just like the dark black background with just this red like ice cream stand.
I think that the cinematography really in this film is excellent. I love the cinematography in this film. I think it's super strong.
Okay, let's move on to a little analysis here. We'll just give our quick kind of... Yeah, I feel like we're pretty much on the same page of what's going on in this film. First time we watched it, we talked about this. We had a very long conversation about it.
Yeah, I mean, this film isn't necessarily open-ended. Like, I think there's a very concrete idea that Kaufman is going for, but you just have to watch it a few times to fully understand it. Like, yes, you could take it in different ways, but I mean, in terms of what's literally happening, basically what you're seeing is the janitor is actually kind of the central character. He's the narrator of the film, if you will. Like, this is his story.
Yeah.
And it's really just, the I'm thinking ending things is that's him contemplating suicide, and just kind of looking back on what could have been, with a girl that he, never even dated, and just really going through hypotheticals and memories of his parents, old and young, the like girls that he's seen at the school he cleans, even the play that he sees them do every year, Oklahoma, is all over this film. Even in the final shot when Jake sings a song from Oklahoma. And really, it's just this depressing outlook on this old man who really just is severely depressed and thinking of ending things. And he's like
Yeah.
looking back on his life and his regrets.
Yeah, I think a big thing is you have to once you figure out that Jake and the janitor are the same person, you kind of get it. It's like, and you have to be paying attention because upon rewatch, there's a lot of things that happen in this film that made it very clear to me, but I did not catch the first time I watched it. I mean, right from the start of the film, we see that the old man, the janitor, is standing in the window. We cut back to Jesse Buckley, and then we cut back, and Jesse Plemons is standing in the same window. Boom! Right away, we should know that the janitor and Jake are the same person.
Yeah, I mean, it's made so obvious throughout most of the film.
Yeah.
Like, even when Jake goes to change the radio, it cuts to the janitor's hands changing the radio in his truck. The entire first act, the entire opening car monologue is intercut with the janitor driving to school. So, I mean, it's really super obvious once you watch it a second or third time.
Yeah, and then the biggest one for me is the slippers. I mean, the janitor offering her the slippers at the school. That's like the moment where it's like, you know, I didn't catch it, but upon rewatch, I'm like, wow, it's really obvious.
Yeah.
And when you realize that all of this is actually happening in his head, none of this ever happened. This is all just like his fantasy.
And that's kind of revealed by Jesse Buckley's monologue at the end. Where like she's saying, you know, he's just this creeper at the bar. Like, I never even talked to the guy. Why should I? That type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's creating this, like, idealistic girl. And we see that because, like, at the start of the car ride, she says she's not a metaphorical girl. She doesn't like poems. But then she recites a poem that she apparently wrote. We then find out that that's a poem that he has in a book in his room. There's lots of elements. She keeps changing professions and degrees. Yeah, the art that she does, he has framed in his basement. It's he's literally creating this girl who is doing all the things that he loves. In the final scene of this film, we see him recite the exact speech from the ending scene of A Beautiful Mind. They are identical speeches, and they are shot a very similar way with everyone aged. But in this film, it's very harsh makeup aging. But it's the exact same scene, and they sing a song from Oklahoma. And, you know, we see her find a DVD of A Beautiful Mind in his room when she's up there. So there's a lot of indications right off the bat that we kind of just... once you figure out that the janitor and Jake are the same person, and this is all happening in his head, then everything kind of works, because anytime something confusing happens, you're able to think about it and go, oh, that's why this is happening. Like the dance sequence. We know that Jake loves musicals. We know that he likes all of these great musicals, so it makes sense that he's going to think about an important part of his life in a dance sequence. It makes sense. Because this isn't real life. It's a fantasy.
Like once you figure out that it's the janitor and you really just focus on what they're saying in the car, it really is just Jake basically contemplating suicide and explaining to himself, really just coming to terms with the fact that he basically he just thinks that he's useless. He thinks that he can't accomplish anything, that he hasn't accomplished anything, that he's a disappointment. You know, his biggest accomplishment in life is like a diligence pin from elementary school. And it's a really sad story, and just a sad film overall once you figure that out. Because the conversations, Jake is just so nihilistic and pessimistic in his conversations.
And whenever Jesse Buckley says, like, I'm thinking of ending things, which he says a lot, there's a couple times where he's like, what? Did you say something? And that, I feel like that's because she's a part of his subconscious, and it's almost like his subconscious is like, I'm thinking of ending things, but he's also like kind of delusional at the same time. We can also assume that maybe he has a form of dementia or something because his father has it, and therefore it could be hereditary. You could have it, and that could be
Yeah.
also why a lot of details continuously are changing in the film. Clothing, the actress
Her
changes a couple
occupation.
times. Her occupation, her like accent, her overall tone, attitude. It's just constantly changing throughout the entire film, and we could say that, you know, maybe he has early dementia
Yeah.
or something like that, which would make sense because it is hereditary.
Yeah, and it really just cemented this as definitely my top film of the year. And like, really, it's just kind of my favorite film recently. I think it, like, in terms of actual how much I enjoyed it, like, not necessarily on an objective scale of how good I think it is. I think I just really enjoyed this film amongst a lot of stuff from
Yeah.
recent years.
Yeah,
Like, I don't necessarily, I wouldn't make the claim that it's better than something like Nomadland or
Yeah.
whatever, but I just think
I don't think it is. I don't think it is
No.
better than a lot of the movies this year.
I don't.
but
I'm not claiming
it's
that.
just-
I don't think so either. I
Yeah.
just think that I enjoy it a lot. I just enjoy it a lot. It's a great film.
Yeah. Well, you watched it 4 times.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I
let's
mean,
take a quick.
that's pretty much it for analysis, I guess. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll hop into the actual review. Okay.
All right, and we are back.
Heading into story
Back in-
and originality out of 10. Let's talk about
Yeah.
it.
This film is so original.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hella original, and and in just the way it tells the story too. It's a very, you know, non-linear story, as is a lot of Kaufman stuff. And yeah, I mean, we already kind of dived pretty heavily into the themes and kind of the point of the film and the analysis.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this film just really stands out to me in like the past 10, 20 years. I think it's a very unique film. It is like based off a book. I haven't read the book or even really read anything on it. But yeah, I mean, I think story-wise, this thing is... it tackles some very big themes of self-worth, regret, self-loathing, and just kind of depression and in general. And it tackles it in a unique way. And at the end of the day, it's a fairly simple story. Like, yeah, it's told in a confusing way, but once you figure it out, it's very rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it gets major points for originality from me. The story is very cool. And it's very original how the film, like, progresses through the story. I mean, my only thing is I feel like they could have they could have added a bit more to this film, in my opinion. I feel like too much of this film is taken up by just conversations in a car, and I feel like the story could have been amplified and even gone a little deeper if they had just, like, shortened some of those car scenes and, like, added in, you know, a bit more, just like just some more crazy scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I came to love the car conversations just because of how much there is to analyze there. Because, I mean, once you look at it through the lens of the janitor thinking what is being said, like, everything about what they're saying can be related to his life. Like, for example, the poem she recites about hating going home, you know, that's just describing the janitor's hatred or his dislike of his parents and how he doesn't like... He had a bad relationship with them and he didn't like going home for holidays or whatever. And it really just that kind of... Everything both characters are saying is just reflecting on the janitor's views on life or what he's thinking about, and that he's thinking of ending things. So I really came to love pretty much every part. Like, I don't think that there's much dead weight in this film. Like, I get that the car conversations are long, but to me they're very essential, because at the end of the day, this film is just diving into the psyche of this old janitor, and I think that the car conversations are very necessary to get the full picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I
mean-
don't think it's perfect, but I really do think that the way that the story is told is just mad creative and mad interesting.
Yeah, I agree. It's not quite full marks for me personally. I just feel like you gotta
Yeah,
just
same.
be there. But yeah, 9 out of 10 story and originality.
Yeah, it's a 9 out of 10 for me too. I mean, like, at the end of the day, when Kaufman's come up with stuff like Synecdoche, New York, and Eternal Sunshine, I just can't give this film full marks, because then it's like, what am I supposed to give those films?
Yeah. Eternal Sunshine is
I-
just another level.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I feel like it's really, really close to a 10. Like, it's so unique, but just not
Yeah.
quite there.
Not quite there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I really hope we get Eternal Sunshine one day, because I love that movie so much.
I've only seen it once. I've only
It's
seen
like
it once, and it
one
was
of
a
my
while
all-time
ago.
favorite.
I'd love to rewatch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to beginning. What are your thoughts about this beginning?
Like, I think it's a fairly average beginning. I really like. I don't think it's bad in any means. I really do like the cinematography. I love the score too. The kind of the theme song. It's the
Yeah.
very stringy,
Mm-hmm.
light theme.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I feel like the beginning is the least enjoyable part of this film.
Yeah.
Especially on rewatching. It just the shots of wallpaper with the opening monologue, which is, by the way, like like the most essential part of the whole film, because that opening monologue that she recites is just pretty much the janitor's, like, I don't know, like, last thoughts or whatever, his reckoning with suicide. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I feel like the beginning is it's set up for a relationship that doesn't exist. So when you rewatch it just feels like not essential to the story of the janitor,
Yeah.
and therefore it just is kind of a bit boring.
Yeah, I agree. I think it sets up the tone really nicely, and it's shot really well. The dialogue is really good, especially her like very poetic opening monologue. But overall,
Yeah.
it is set up, and once again, like you said, it's set up for something that doesn't really need to be set up that much. And it's just like, yeah, not all that
I don't
entertaining.
think I would cut anything. Like, I don't think I would cut anything out.
I would
but
speed
I
it
just-
up a little. I feel like it's
I mean,
the
this
pacing.
film's not
yeah.
that long. Yeah, true.
It's pretty long. I feel like it could have been paced a lot better. Even just like just bring it quick enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give it a 3 out
I gave
of 5.
it a 3%. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty much just dead in the middle. I don't think
Mhm.
I would cut anything personally, but especially because this is my 4th time watching it, I was just like really kind of zoned out. Yeah. Let's move on to ending though, which is at a 5%.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
I really love this ending. I
Me
really
too.
love the ending to this film.
I do too.
I just really love the fact that it's harsh. It kind of just devolves into very fever dream levels of insanity.
Mhm.
You have this dance sequence, and I mean, at this point, you're already kind of confused, and then at this point, everything you thought you knew is like shattered, and all of a sudden, the film is centering on this janitor. And the first time I watched it, I wasn't really paying much attention to the cuts to the janitor, so I was like, "Wait, why are we on the janitor now?" And then he like is naked in the school. Like, what's happening? So I think
Yeah.
that the ending is definitely like the magnum opus of confusion. It's like it is the climax kind of.
Yeah.
But upon rewatching, once you figured it out, it's just the payoff is nice because you're just like, ah, yeah, I know what happened.
Yeah.
And I love that. I like the final shot of the janitor's truck buried in snow, and the pan to the sky, or the fade to the sky.
Yeah, it's like the first time I watched this film, I felt like it was. I was kind of disappointed because I was like, like I had no clue what happened. It was kind of like Enemy, where I was like, it's so ambiguous that it kind of was annoying how ambiguous it was, because it makes you feel kind of dumb, you know. It makes you feel like, what did I not get? But upon rewatch, and actually understanding the concept of this film, it's actually not ambiguous at all. It's actually pretty.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's very literal.
The only thing ambiguous about it is, did he die or did he not die? And you know, like that's really because they don't show it flat out. But the actual singing the song in the gymnasium and accepting the award is actually not ambiguous at all. And it's a pretty sweet ending. And Jesse Plemons gives a fantastic performance in that ending scene.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. I don't know. It just didn't have like as hard of an impact on me as like some endings do, you know? Like I just, it didn't give me that like, whoa, like it still was like, oh, that was a good ending. It just wasn't quite like, you know.
I think like what really doesn't, it's not full marks. And like, I think the reason for me is because like, this isn't one of those confusing films where, like, at the end you figure everything out and then it all makes sense and then you feel rewarded. It's like, you gotta rewatch it, and then I feel like once you rewatch it, you figure it out before the ending. So, like, the ending is never really, when you, like, figure it out. So, and at the end of the day, the Beautiful Mind speech is pretty long. And it is just not a very, like, dopamine like, inducing ending. Like, I really like it, but I just don't think it's quite, like, as great as the ending to Synecdoche, New York. I'm going to be drawing a lot of comparisons between the two.
I've never actually seen that movie.
I will. Okay, I won't spoil it then. But like an ending like that, for the people who have seen it, it just, like, once you understand it too, it just gives you like that, damn, like, yeah, that was such a good ending. Like, this film, it kind of ends and you're like, yeah, that was good, but the ending just doesn't really hit hard.
Yeah, I agree. Still a pretty good ending though. I give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, same here. 4% out of 5. Just not quite perfect.
Yep. Let's move into screenplay and dialogue. What's really boosting this for me is the dialogue. I love the dialogue in this film. I think it's very strong. It's very poetic. And it really adds to the overall, like, creepy tone of this film and the unsettling awkwardness of it all.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really have any problems with the dialogue. And the screenplay is really solid once again. I mean, the only thing for me in the screenplay, once again, is just some pacing. And, you know, if we're looking at beginning and ending, because those aren't full marks, I mean, that also is screenplay, that they didn't write, you know, as strong of a beginning or ending. And yeah, I mean, I just don't, I feel like there are some scenes that I just could have been sped up a little.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
some monologues that could have been shortened down, all that stuff.
I agree with you, but I think at the root of this film, what I enjoy about it so much is the writing, and is the dialogue. I just, it's really fascinating to me, like, the way that these characters interact, like, just not, like, forget about the plot, like, just the straight up way the conversations between Jesse Buckley and Jesse Plemons are constructed are just so, like, down the rabbit hole. They'll just start, like, each topic blends into the next one, and the way they cut each other off, it's just so awkward and eerie. Like, it really like kept it. Literally, the first time I watched this, I was entertained just based off of that dynamic. Even during these really long scenes in the car, just the way that they were talking about all these crazy subjects just kept me invested. And at the end of the day, like, this film has some stretches that I feel like would be very boring if not for the way it's written. Because even on the second round of car monologues, you get these really like ecstatic monologues and these very like it gets very intense. You know, what they're talking about gets really intense, and for that reason, like, I just really think that this screenplay is really the main reason that this film is very enjoyable for me. And yeah, I mean, I think that the pacing issues are pretty minor for me. I think that the biggest issues are at the very start. But I think that now that I've seen it, like, I don't think I would cut that beginning, just because of the great tone it sets and just the way it sets up the rest of the film. Like, I think it's necessary. If it's not the most enjoyable, I still think it needs to be there. So I really heavily enjoy the screenplay.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is there's just some points where I was watching it the second time, some of the conversations they were having where I was sitting there and I was like, this is just a little too pretentious for me. I was like, I get it. It's just they're trying too hard. It's like, you know, that try hard at school that you're annoyed by. It kind of felt like that. I was like, this dialogue is so like artsy that it was kind of annoying me at some points. It's still really good.
And that's exactly why I loved it.
I'm not going to deny it's amazing, but it did annoy me at some points just because I felt it was a little too pretentious sometimes. And yeah, some pacing issues. But yeah, I give it a 7 out of 8. I still think it's a very well done screenplay. I gave it full marks. Like, at the end of the day, when I'm looking at this film and I'm looking at like where it's getting the points, like, this category is carrying this entire film on its back. I think that I got it so quickly, like, the fact that it's the janitor, and really just how rewarding it is once you figure out that Jake is the janitor, how you can piece together everything. Right. Like, upon second viewing, I wasn't confused at all, and that's like the screenplay at work, because the second time you watch it, everything makes sense. The screenplay isn't like confusing. You just gotta figure it. You just gotta watch it once, and then once you kind of have that figured out, then boom, it all makes sense, and it's just beautiful. So I gave it 8%. I think it should have gotten the Oscar nom. I'm disappointed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just realized that this film is so pretentious that they didn't even capitalize the title.
Yeah. You didn't notice that? When you sent it to me, I was like, damn, they got the all lowercase too.
All lowercase title. Wow. Yeah. This is an artsy movie.
This is a very artsy film.
Let's move into soundtrack out of 7.
Sure.
I mean, like, it's a pretty
it's good.
Bland. I mean, it's good when it's there. It's good. It's just it's not there very often. There are moments where the soundtrack is used, and I think the biggest thing boosting the score for me is the dance sequence, because I think the music is beautiful in that scene. Yeah. But other than that,
I agree with you.
Other than that, it's pretty much just the same song used like 2 or 3 times in the entire movie. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, the soundtrack is very bare bones. There's 5 songs in total. Mm-hmm. And one of those is the Tulsi Town jingle.
Right.
And one of them is the song from Oklahoma. So, like, at the end of the day, this score is very, very bare bones.
Yeah.
And I really love the theme, but at the end of the day, like, you're just not going to get that many points in soundtrack when you straight up basically don't have one.
Yeah, and like I think the biggest thing they could have done here is especially the car rides, just like very faint radio music in the background, and like
Yeah,
not only would that have been nice, but it would have added entertainment to some of those scenes that were dragging on a little too long, in my opinion. You just not like loud that it ruins the mood, but just a very faint, just a little bit of soundtrack in the background. I feel just
Yeah.
would have added a lot, especially those
I
like
mean,
long car rides.
I think that I'm pretty okay with this film not really having that much of a soundtrack. Like, like I agree with you. I think that would be a nice touch, but I think either way, like, I don't really think that they should have really added that much scoring elements. It's not going to give it any points here, but I just don't think that it needed the score
Yeah.
to succeed.
Yeah, I don't
But
like
I
when
gave
music
it a
is
4%. I gave it a 4% out of 7, which honestly is a bit generous considering that this film has like almost nothing. But I just really liked the main theme. I think that the main theme is really great.
Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I give it a 4 out of 7 also. And I think, yeah, I like the main theme and the dance sequence. It's like a pretty long dance sequence, so it's actually some pretty good music. 4 out of 7. Let's move on. Production design out of 6.
Yeah, I like the production design when I was first watching this, and like I didn't really think I was gonna give it that high of a mark. But then I really like on this viewing just really looked into it deeply. And I think mainly this is where when they're at Jake's parents' house, that's when the main set design and makeup comes into play. But they really just put in so much detail and so much effort into the production and set design. And I was really impressed. Like, they even went so far as to like change Toni Collette's teeth like whenever she ages. They like she has different teeth each time. Like, they really went down to like all the details. I mean, even the stack of books in Jake's room, there's multiple times where they'll quote those books.
Yeah.
They have the poems that he likes to read in there. And I mean, really, just the set design is just very purposeful. It's very detailed. And even like the wallpapers they picked.
Yeah.
While they might not have the most like literal translations, they are very purposeful. And I really had appreciation for the production design upon third and fourth and second viewing.
Yeah, I think the set design is great, and the costumes, especially for Jessie Buckley's character, are really cool, especially how they change constantly. I like how they get darker and darker as the film progresses. She starts off with a big pink coat, and as the movie progresses, she's basically in all navy blue by the end, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I thought that overall it's a really well decorated set. Some of the production design is great, the wallpapers, the costume. It's not like crazy by any means, but it's very detailed.
Yeah.
And that's why it's getting a lot of points for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I give it 5 out of 6. 5 out of 6 for production
I also
design.
gave it a 5% out of 6. Like, it's not very grand, but it's just very detailed. And there's nothing that is really standing out as like errors or anything. They took their time with it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to location selection out of 6. This is a tough category to mark. There's very, very few locations. But in a way, I feel like that made their selection just the tiny bit better because of how few locations there are. I think that the school is a great location. I like that school. Like, I don't know how much there is to say here. I like the landscapes while they're driving. I love the barren, frozen fields.
Yeah, the farm is very cool.
Yeah. They're good locations.
They
but
are.
There's only like
and
4
the dead
or 5.
snow. I think Tulsi Town. Tulsi Town. Yeah, Tulsi Town was the location, and then they just decorated it up.
Yeah.
So that was actually a really
Yeah.
good location, in my opinion. It's actually
yeah.
the location selection boosts this film so much, especially just when they're driving in the car and what you're seeing out the window. It's like it's definitely
Yeah.
boosting it, and you know the downpour of snow. I mean, yeah, not a lot. They don't go to a lot of places in this film, but the locations they use are great. I really like the school actually, because it does look like a normal school, but there's something kind of creepy about it at the same time. It's very symmetrical, the entire school, which is kind of off-putting, and I really like that. I really like it.
That's
and in the fourth
that's actually
read,
another. Wait, I forgot to mention this, but during my first watch, the reason I figured out that Jake was the janitor was when he said he like listed off how many rooms there were in the school and like listed all the types of rooms and stuff. That was the moment where I was like, "Whoa, okay, this is the janitor." Because you know he's like there's 130 rooms, 2 change rooms, boys and girls. Like he's something
Right.
only a janitor would know. That's when I picked it together. I forgot to mention that was the
Right.
moment. But yeah, I like the location selection a lot. Yeah, what'd you give it?
yeah, I give it a 5 out of 6.
Same here. I mean, I can't really give it perfect marks when there's borderline, I don't know, less than 10 locations, but yeah, I mean, when you're on a road, when you film a road trip film, you better have some nice scenery, and they do. So yeah, 5% out of 6.
Yeah, okay, so let's take a quick break and then we'll come back with cinematography. Okay, we are back hopping into cinematography out of 10.
Yes,
I mean,
love this category.
Is beautiful in its own
This film,
weird way.
yeah, I agree. Like, this film is artsy. Like, once you boil it down, everything about this film is so artsy.
Yeah.
And the cinematography is included. Like, I mean, the cinematography in this film really gave us a lot of inspiration for some films we've made. Like, just the claustrophobic nature of that 4:3, it's very intentional, and I respect that.
Yeah.
They didn't necessarily just pick the 4:3 to be artsy, although it definitely helps. It is purposeful at the end of the day. And really, like, let me just say this. Lucas Zal, I really have no idea how to pronounce his name. There's so many accents. He's, like, one of my favorite modern cinematographers. I don't know if you've seen Ida. It's a Polish film.
Nope.
I mean, it got I think it won Best Cinematography at the Oscars. Ida and Cold War are the 2 films I've seen
Sure, Cold War.
where he has been the cinematographer, and he is really just an amazing cinematographer. He has a very distinct style. All those 3 films I just listed are all 4:3, and they all just have very similar framing. He just has a very stylized, cool look. And I think that the cinematography in this film is no different. I just think it's a very nice to look at film. The shots inside the house feel very warm, and I mean the framing is just masterful. Like that moment where everybody disappears from the dining table, and all of a sudden there's just this very empty looking shot from above. That's a really cool shot. And also just while they're at the dinner table, everybody is filmed in these normal MCUs, but when they cut back to Lucy or Jessie Buckley, they basically shoot it where they frame her the widest possible they could without showing any other characters, just making her feel very isolated.
Right.
And it just gives this very creepy aesthetic. And there's some really nice moving shots too. Like there's this shot where they have everybody sitting at the table and they slowly move the camera so that a wall covers everybody. except for Jesse Buckley. And it's just these very artsy, great shots, and I love it. I love the cinematography in this film.
Yeah. I mean, I think the lighting in this film is just so good. I mean, it's such a well lit film, especially the Tulsi Town scene. Like, I was blown away by the lighting in that scene. I was like, damn, with it like shining on them and reflecting off the snow with just the dark background, and it is just so good. And yeah, the 4:3 aspect ratio works really well for this film to add that claustrophobic feel, and it also adds this like symmetry to the film that's very off-putting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that uncanny valley where you're watching this film and everything, it just feels off. Nothing really happens that's scary, but you still feel this odd tension as you're watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like some of the choices in cinematography, like the car ride, choosing to shoot all of the shots from outside of the vehicle, like looking into the car. You'll notice all the shots are like through windows, like they're never actually inside of the car.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And just simple things like just having snow pounding on windows and cars as they're driving, or just outside as they're talking, is very cool. And how they light the exterior. I did feel like my only problem is that the like car ride when it's nighttime, like the last couple car rides, it's pretty dark. And there are moments where I'm sitting there, I'm like, I cannot really see anything right now. like they could have I just needed a bit more light on the characters' faces or their eyes. Because I was like, there were some points where it was like almost pitch black, and I was like, I don't know if this is like artistic or this is just like lazy lighting.
I mean, I think, in my opinion, it was pretty artistic. I think, okay, the first time I watched this film, I mean, I have Netflix on my phone, so I like watched it in my phone, with headphones in. I'm like in bed at like 2 a.m. And oh my god, when it got to that part, like, I don't know. I kind of thought this was a horror film, so like when it was like super tightly filmed on their faces and everything else is just pitch black, I'm just waiting for something bad to happen.
Right.
And nothing does, but I was just like anticipating some spooky stuff to happen. Because, you know, the film had already kind of gone in that direction with the creepy basement and like Jake just like yelling and you can't hear what he's saying, and like there were like some elements, and I just thought that the dark car rides were making it more tense on first viewing. I mean, once you've seen it already and you know that nothing's gonna happen, then it's just kind of like, okay, now it's just really dark. But I don't know. I think that's a bit of a stylistic choice. I'm not. Maybe it is just lazy lighting. And yeah, I don't think the cinematography is perfect by any means, but I don't know. I think that this is a great example of really using creative cinematography to boost your story and to just add so much to scenes, rather than just slapping widescreen on it and a teal orange LUT and having a cinematic look.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I gave it a 9% out of 10. Yeah, I really, really like the cinematography in this film.
Yep, same. 9 out of 10 for cinematography. We've been neck and neck this entire review.
Yeah.
Let's move on to editing out of 8.
Damn. I think that this film is actually edited really, like, I don't know, like, it's technically good, but there's just, the way it's edited is so weird and like unsettling that it just feels very awkward, like they're cutting it as if these like with no chemistry between their dialogue. Like they'll awkwardly cut between the dialogue of Jesse Buckley and Jesse Plemons in the car rides, and it just adds to that like unsettling dynamic that this whole film has. I also think that the sound design in this film is very solid. It's nothing crazy, but just the very subtle wind howls that are present throughout the entire car ride scene at night just give it that much more of a tense vibe. Yeah, I mean, I think that the editing is kind of similar to the cinematography. It feels off-putting, and it's technically also very strong. I don't think it's perfect, but I do really enjoy the choices that they made.
Yeah, I agree. It's very unsettling, and also the when they choose to cut a scene, like cutting together different sections, and when we show the janitor and when we show Jake, they're using editing to kind of tell you what is going on, which is a good way to use editing, and a good reason to cut, which I really like. The sound design is really good in my opinion. I really like the added like windshield wiper sounds that we see, especially when they're in the car. You know, and like when she's reciting the poem, the windshield wipers are on beat with her poetry, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And I just really like the blue and gray color grade. It's not a color grade we see very often, and it's very risky to take two dark colors and use it as a color grade. But it looks really good in this film. Yeah.
For sure.
I gave editing a 7 out of 8. I think it's solid.
Same here.
I think it's a little better than solid, actually.
I think that technically there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's extremely solid, and they just have those creative cuts that boost it up even further. Yeah, 7 out of 8%. Super solid editing. Yeah, let's move on to acting, which is out of 10%. I mean, there's only really 5 main performances in this film.
Yeah.
And I think they all give stellar performances. I mean,
I agree.
I really can't name my favorite or my least favorite. I mean, I guess if I had to go with my favorite, I'd go Jessie Buckley. I think she gives a great performance as the unnamed girl. I mean, I really haven't seen her in anything, and then she just kind of showed up and did this, and it's just a very, very solid performance. She gives some great monologues, and yeah, she just totally fits the vibe of this film. Very unsettling performance. And she really just feels like almost a representation of the viewer. Like, she's confused by what's happening. Same as us. You know, she feels on edge. She's kind of scared by what's happening. Like, she just gives a great performance. And I really think that all the performances here are very, very solid. There's no real weak link.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very good performance from Jessie Buckley. It's very interesting. She's asked to do a lot. She has to change her kind of persona constantly throughout the film, which is very hard for an actor to do. I also like Jesse Plemons. I mean, he gives some really powerful performances, especially that ending scene, his song, him in the car when he has that kind of like breakdown monologue in the car. And he also just gives really creepy vibes. And, you know, it's like he plays this character that you kind of love, but you're also kind of terrified of, which is really great. And that's mostly due to just his compassionate performance and yet very awkward and unsettling performance at the same time. And then Toni Collette and David Thewlis are very good. They're very
fantastic.
comedic. They're very comedic, but they're
Yeah.
also very scary and awkward, and I love it so much. I mean, like, the acting is solid in this film for me.
Yeah, it's really solid
good.
in my opinion.
I mean, you know, there are some, like the Tulsi Town actors that I'm just like,
I think the Tulsi Town actors are pretty good, man.
they're okay. Yeah, they're fine.
Well, okay, I don't think I think that they're like, it's a little bit kind of over the top and cringe with the girl with the scabs on her arm.
Yeah.
But I mean, she gives like 4 lines or something. You know? She's a very minor role.
I agree. For me, the acting is solid. There just isn't anything in the performances that like sent it over the top for me. That's the only thing. Like, Good Will Hunting,
Yeah.
for me, it was like everything was solid, and we have like Robin Williams
Yeah.
and Matt Damon giving these like breakdown crazy performances, and that's why that got 10 out
Yeah.
of 10. Where this, there wasn't
Exactly.
any moment where I was like, oh my god, you know? It was kind of just
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah,
I totally
great
agree. This is not
performances.
even. This does not deserve full marks in any means.
Yeah,
The performances just aren't that taxing on the actors for it to get full marks.
yeah,
However, I am giving it a light 9% out of 10 just because of how goddamn solid all the performances are.
I agree.
Mean, like I said, there's really no weak link, and they really just play their characters so well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
9 out of
9%
10.
out of 10.
9 out of 10. Let's move on to entertainment value out of 10. This is where I feel like we
Yeah.
might differentiate a little.
I mean, okay, I think that I love this film. I've watched it 4 times, so obviously I think that the rewatch value is great. But at the end of the day, this film is like not the most entertaining. Like I really have to. I couldn't just sit down and watch this film for fun. Like, it's that pretentious, you know. I kind of feel like you need to want to watch it. You have to like put it on the calendar, like mark a day down, like I'm gonna watch I'm Thinking Ending Things, because I mean it is over 2 hours,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is just talking, and I
Yeah.
really enjoy it, but it just isn't the most quote like entertaining film you could watch.
Yeah,
There's
you
a
have to
million
be
other films you could watch to be
Yeah.
entertained. This is not one of them.
you have to be all in with this film, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, it has some pacing issues in my opinion, and I feel like you could have cut out a good like 10 minutes of this film. Yeah, I mean, this was my second time watching it, and I was still thrilled, and I enjoyed watching it, but I'm not gonna lie, there were some moments where I was bored. I was like, yeah, I was a little bored. And I feel like that's just due to the fact that it just goes on a little too long, in my opinion. And I get it. I get that the dialogue is important, and there's certain elements that are like connected to this and that. But it just wasn't as
Yeah.
entertaining as I feel like
Like-
it could have been.
To me,
Um,
there's nothing that it does wrong. Like, I don't think that anything should be cut. I just straight up think, like, there's no way you can make this film be more entertaining than it is. Like, at the end of the day, like, when you set out to make a film and you have it where an hour of it's just going to be 2 characters in a car talking, like, you're just not going to make an entertaining film. Like,
Yeah.
I think that this film... I probably am more entertained by this film than most, but okay, like that sounds very pretentious, and it is. This film's pretentious, but like I don't think it's necessarily boring. But at the same time, I don't think it is an entertaining film. So, with that being said, I gave it a 7% out of 10. I've seen this 4 times, and I'd
Yeah.
be willing to watch it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't watch this on a Friday night with like other people. This is
Yeah.
like a 2 a.m. solo venture for me. So
Yeah.
7%.
Well, I watched this on a Friday night with other people. But I gave this a 7 out of 10 also. I mean, for me, it is slow, but it does entertain me to the fact that I enjoy analyzing film, and I enjoy watching this and trying to piece stuff together. And I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe the second time I watched it, I was more bored, but I can tell you that the first time I watched this movie, I was in it, and I was like
yeah,
really
I was
in
not
it.
bored at all the first time I watched this film.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna give it lower than a 7, but yeah, it does have some pacing issues, and it's it's a little slow. But yeah, 7 out of 10. Let's move on to overall technical achievement out of 15.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, it's weird. I gave cinematography a 9 and I gave editing a 7, but to be honest, I don't know if this makes sense, but they're like more artistically impressive than technically impressive. Like, I more enjoy them for like the way that they complement the screenplay versus actually having good technical cinematography. Because at the end of the day, they just have like a rig set up around the car. Like I don't really, I love the cinematography, but I don't think it's one I can give a 14% out of 15 to, just because nothing really that crazy happens technically. I mean, I think that the technical elements are really, really solid. And I think that they really creatively enhance the story. But they just don't quite give me that, like, epic, damn impressed feel that some of the other films that we've reviewed have given me. So yeah, with that being said, I gave the overall technical achievement a 13% out of 15. I think it's really, really solid technically. But just not really on the same level as other stuff that we've seen.
Yeah, I agree. It's not quite there. Also, I think the soundtrack brings it down a little bit for me. But overall, I think it is a pretty technically strong film. And I do think it is beautiful to look at. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm giving it a 13 out of 15. Yeah. Awesome. So let's take a quick break. We're very
similar,
close.
But
I think we're only one off.
We'll take a
quick break.
We'll take a break. We'll tally up our scores.
Come back with the wheel. See what we're doing next week. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hyped.
Okay, we're back. We've tallied up our final scores. I think we are very close today.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
This film is a very simple film. Like, the story is told in a not very traditional way, but I mean, really just all the elements, like technical elements, that kind of stuff, they're very simplistic. They're very beautiful, but
very simplistic.
Yeah. My overall percentage for this film is an 83%. Yeah. 80%. I mean, I really enjoy this film. I don't. It's kind of hard for me because I feel like it deserves to be a bit higher. Yeah. Yeah,
I agree with you. It does deserve to be a bit higher, but just because of our scoring and whatever. I mean, okay, I give it an 82%. This is the first time I have been spot on with Rotten Tomatoes.
I didn't even know we were looking at that. Have I don't know. I just looked at it and I was like, hey, I'm spot on with Rotten Tomatoes. 82%. Nice.
That means we average out to an 82.5.
Which is the same as Atonement.
And the other thing is Atonement, we have the exact same scores. What do we do?
Except flipped.
Oh.
Well, I think in that case, then we make the executive decision on which film we like more.
And I think that means I'm thinking of Ending Things goes above
it.
Totally.
So, I'm thinking Ending Things is above Atonement.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Like, I do think that it deserves to be rated a bit higher, but I'm just looking at what's above it, and these are some legendary films that hold special places in my heart. So I think it's correctly rated, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
And it's not even it's like not even close to my favorite Kaufman film. So like, I think that Eternal Sunshine, Being John Malkovich, Synecdoche, New York are all better films.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I would be really hyped to do another Kaufman film. Also, yeah, I think that it's correctly rated. It's a fun watch. I think everybody should watch it. It's on Netflix. So
cool. That means I'm thinking of Ending Things is in 11th place right now, underneath.
Not in the top 10.
No, right underneath The Farewell. Yeah, very close. But yeah, I think I'm okay with where it is. Yeah. We keep saying that this isn't giving it, but I feel like an 82.5 is a pretty high score for a film.
Yeah, that's a high score.
Honestly, I think that fits this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's spin the wheel and see what we're doing next week. I'm excited. I'm always excited for the wheel. I like to find out what movie we're doing. This is fun.
Yeah, I want to see something I've never seen. I want to get something I've never seen. Yeah.
Well, I got QuickTime Player pulled up. Let's screen record and let's spin this thing. Okay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We are spinning in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. What are we landing on? Ooh. Okay.
What did we get?
We've landed on Train Spotting.
Oh! Yo, okay, well, I've seen this film. I've been meaning to rewatch this, though. Damn, this film is depressing. Have you seen Trainspotting?
Nope. I've never seen Train Spotting. This has been on my list for a long time.
Yeah, it's a sad film. It's a very great film. I love this film. I've been meaning to rewatch it. Yeah, it's just a depressing film, and it's a really, really dark. This is by far the darkest film we've done, I think.
Isn't it a dark comedy,
so
though?
Yeah, but I mean, the subject matter is just kind of
Yeah.
unsettling. All right.
Classic
I
film.
will pull up the plot summary real quick. Okay. Renton is a drug addict who tries to mend his ways by moving to London and starting life afresh. He, however, is pulled back into the world of addiction by his friends. Yeah, this is a British film from 1996. It is universally loved. Very high score on Rotten Tomatoes, not Hot Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this film is very critically acclaimed. It's widely loved. I haven't seen it in a while, and I'm hyped to watch it. I think it's the shortest film we've done so far. It's just over an hour and a half.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I've wanted to watch this movie for a long time, so I'm actually happy about this because it makes me have to watch it, which is good.
And I think that it is on Netflix.
I believe it is, yeah.
I think
Didn't
it's on Netflix.
Like, Trainspotting 2 just come out recently?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's also on Prime Video. If you have that, you can watch it there. Yeah, this has been our review of I'm Thinking of Ending Things, favorite film of 2020. And we'll see you next week for Trainspotting.
Thank you for listening to Slightly Qualified Film Students.
Make sure to tune in next week for a new film discussion and review.
Our theme song is Slightly Sexy by Thompson Springs.
Make sure to subscribe and leave us a like.
Send us feedback and comments as well as your thoughts on the film. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at S_Q_F_S.
If you would like to send us a question or a comment for next week's episode, you can email us at sqfilmstudents@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.